Good morning and welcome to another episode of Tom's Gadget Garage. Today we are at Phoenix's South Mountain with the InMotion Climber, which, this video has been a long time coming. I did test this InMotion Climber out on our extreme hill climb test where it scaled 23% grades with ease. Now we're going to see how it does on our endurance hill climb test. Now for these rides up South Mountain with commuter scooters, I normally limit the speed to 20 miles an hour. Unfortunately, with the InMotion Climber, the only option it gives me is to limit the speed to like 25 kilometers an hour or drive around in drive mode. And so for this ride, we're driving around in sport mode, which has a top speed of about 23 miles an hour. Now this InMotion Climber is a 36 volt scooter. It's got a 14.7 amp hour battery, so it's good for approximately 530 watt hours of capacity. Now in terms of range, I will include a link to our range test as well as full review of this scooter. But this is one of the better performers in the commuter scooter segment. And it'll be interesting to see if that translates well into our endurance hill climb. Now this is a dual motor scooter, so it's got 450 nominal watt motor up front as well as in the rear. And both of these motors are each capable of cranking out 750 peak watts of power for a total combined 1500 watts of peak power. As I mentioned before, we did test this scooter out on our extreme hill climb test where it pretty much outperformed every other commuter scooter that I've tested up there. So, for being a 47-pound scooter, which is currently priced at Voro Motors under 600 bucks, I'll tell you what, it's very hard to beat. Now for today's ride, I will be keeping a very close eye on our battery bars. There's no percentage or voltage readout on the screen. However, you do have the ability to go into the InMotion app and look at the battery voltage from there. So 36 volts will be basically our 50% point. Here on this South Mountain hill climb test, we do try and get to 3 lookout points. We go to Dobbins Lookout, Buena Vista Lookout, as well as Gila Valley Lookout. I was able to make it to all 3 lookout points on the Segway 9bot Max G2, although it did require a little pushing for about 150 feet near the top. I was able to make it up with the NIU KQI 300X. That particular scooter made it up beautifully with the exception of a brief moment of overheating. Of course, that was a test was done in the middle of the summer. We came up here with the Apollo Go. That scooter was able to make it up to 2 out of the 3 lookout points. And then we recently came up here with the Segway ZT3 Pro, and we were able to make it to 2 out of the 3 lookout points, although we were only a half mile from the top on that scooter. So anyways, we'll see how this InMotion Climber does relative to those. Now we are approaching approximately 3 miles into this ride. It is 9.5 miles to the very top, and we have officially lost our first battery bar, so we are at 4 out of 5 battery bars remaining right now. Right now we are maintaining approximately 18 miles an hour up this mountain, so regardless of the inclines that we've gone over, it's been able to hold strong at that speed. We'll see how it does on some of the steeper sections ahead. When it comes to ride comfort, I've been asked by many people in the past, is it a comfortable scooter to ride? Well, one thing to note is that this InMotion Climber does not have a suspension. So really the only dampening that you're going to have are these 10-inch tubed pneumatic tires, as well as bending your knees. But overall, so far on this ride, it's a very comfortable ride. Now, we do have relatively good roads here. You can see that maybe in the video you've got some cracks, and the surface isn't the smoothest, but generally speaking, it's in pretty decent condition. But even going over these cracks, it's still a very comfortable ride. Now, is it going to be as comfortable as a full suspension or even partial suspension scooter? No, absolutely not. But if you're going to be cruising around on this scooter in well-paved areas, yeah, it's a very comfortable scooter. So one thing that I think is important to mention is that this has got similar battery capacity to a lot of those other commuter scooters that we tested up here. The difference being this is a dual motor scooter. So you've got 2 motors putting in some work. So it'll be interesting to see how this does coming up the mountain in terms of battery capacity. All right, we got a little bit of a downhill stretch, and then we're going to go into a pretty lengthy hill climb. All right, this is going to be the first of our steep inclines here. We are maintaining approximately 16.5 miles per hour according to GPS. Now we are in the shadow of the mountain right now, and we are coming in to a grueling hill climb. And then once we get around the ridge up there, We will have a little bit of relief with the downhill section, but right now this is a monster of a hill climb. We are maintaining approximately 17 miles an hour right now, and we've officially crossed the 4-mile mark on this ride, and we've still got 4 out of 5 battery bars remaining. I forgot to mention it earlier, but we are going to be tracking this ride with Garmin GPS today. That'll give us the most consistent readout, and it's what we use on all of our rides up the mountain. So really good way to get some benchmarks, and then of course at the end of the ride we'll pull all the data and display it on the screen. All right, so we are officially at 3 out of 5 battery bars remaining, and that's at about 4.5 miles of riding up this mountain. I do want to say thank you to Voro Motors for sending over the InMotion Climber for review purposes. If you haven't caught it already, I did publish our full review where you can see our range test, extreme hill climb test, the whole 9 yards. So I'll definitely be sure to include that in the description below if you're interested in watching that. Voro Motors does have some pretty good pricing on this scooter right now on their website, and so I will include a link in the description. And if you use that link to purchase an InMotion Climber, it absolutely helps support this channel and keeps the wheels moving on future reviews. And for those of you keeping track, we just crossed the 5-mile mark, and we've still got 3 out of 5 battery bars remaining. All right, we got a little steep section here coming over this ridge. And this is a steeper section here. We're still able to maintain 13, 14 miles an hour. All right, so that is our first turn to our lookout point, which is going to be Dobbins Lookout. We are nearly there. It is a steep little climb up to the top. All right, and we are at our first lookout point. All right, so here we are at Dobbins Lookout. Beautiful morning, slight breeze. Got the Phoenix metro area out there. Anyways, there's our trusty InMotion Climber. So far making it up, no problem at all. All right, so we are heading. All right, folks, quick update here. We are about 7.4 miles into our ride. We are at Buena Vista Lookout. I'm not sure what happened, but it looks like my GoPro stopped recording. And so it doesn't look like my external battery is charging it up anymore. So thankfully I had an extra battery in my bag. But anyways, here's the view from Buena Vista Lookout. You've got downtown Phoenix over there, Camelback Mountain, Tempe, where we do a lot of our night rides. Absolutely beautiful this morning. There's our InMotion Climber. We've got about 39% battery remaining. So I don't know the likelihood of this making it up to that third lookout point, but we'll go up a little ways and see how this does. Anyways, hopefully I can get this camera operational again, because I don't know that the battery will last all the way down the mountain. So we are now heading out to our next lookout, which is going to be Gila Valley Lookout. I'm not sure that we're going to make it all the way to the top, because right now we're sitting at about a little 39 or so % battery remaining, and that may not be enough to get us all the way to the top and then back to our starting point. But we'll go a little ways up and see how far this will take us. But we may have to get this thing turned around so that we can make it back to the car, because we are a long ways away from that, 8 miles. So we officially crossed the 8-mile mark right now, and we've still got 2 out of 5 battery bars remaining. So as you get to the bottom of this battery, you definitely feel a drop in performance, usually around 20% or so. And from there, it reduces output. You get some of that voltage sag, and it basically slows you down so you can stretch out the available range. But anyways, here we are making it up a steep section right now, and we are cruising around at approximately 13 miles an hour. And this is a steep section. This is actually one of the steepest sections on this route right here. Let's see how well it does. 10, 9 miles an hour. So I did just do a battery check-in, and we're sitting at about 30% right now. As I mentioned, this scooter does have electronic regenerative braking, which is applied when you tap on the brakes. So we'll see how this does on the downside of the mountain. But we're probably going to be turning around here shortly. A little bit of a hill climb here. Our Gila Valley lookout is just up there to the left. Based on coming up here many times, I can tell you that we're within about a half mile of that lookout point. And right now we are cruising up this mountain at about 11 to 12 miles an hour coming through this steep section. All right, things are slowing down. 9 miles an hour. 8 miles an hour. Coming back to 9. Gets a little flatter here. And into another little hill climb. All right, so unfortunately we've got our battery beeping at us, so that's going to mark our turnaround point. We're about, let's see, let me look at our, oh man, yeah, we got to about 0.4 miles from the top. We're at 9.1 miles, so we did cross that 9 mile mark, which is a little bit farther than we got with the Segway ZT3 Pro. Now it's just a matter of seeing if we have enough juice in the tank to make it back. And that's going to be my biggest concern. Thankfully, a lot of this is a downhill ride, but there are some uphill sections on the way down. So what we're going to be doing right now is maximizing our use of gravity so that we can freewheel as much of the way down this mountain as possible, because I definitely don't want to have to push this scooter too far. All right, we've got another little hill climb here until we get over this ridge. This is what I'm worried about, is these little uphill sections on our way back down. All right, we are up and over the ridge. There is a Camelback Mountain straight ahead. And we are coming into our nice little downhill stretch here. Like I said, we do have our electronic brakes set at 80%. Hopefully, that'll help us get some juice back into this battery. So we got painfully close to the top of a Gila Valley lookout. We were so close, but that battery started screaming. You know, if I had the speed limited, if I had the ability to limit the speed to 20 miles an hour, we may have been able to make it up. So that's a little unfortunate, but we'll take that as a win though. 9.1 miles up a mountain is definitely solid performance, especially coming out of a 47-pound scooter with 530 watt-hours of capacity. Right now, it's a matter of stretching out this battery as much as possible. One interesting thing to call out about this scooter is when you're coming down these steep inclines, you know, scooters that have regenerative braking, when you release the throttle, it automatically applies brakes to slow you down. With this scooter, it looks like most of that happens when you actually hit the brake. So when you release the throttle, you actually freewheel down the slope. All right, another little downhill section. Then we've got a little windy uphill stretch up ahead. But we'll fully take advantage of gravity on this section here. It is very disconcerting to have your battery alarm going off when you're 9 miles away from your starting point on a mountain that's closed to road traffic. You know, there's no cars up here because it is Silent Sunday. Every Sunday of the month they observe Silent Sunday, which is basically no automobile traffic allowed, to allow, you know, bikers and pedestrians and hikers and everything to fully enjoy the mountain without having to worry about cars. All right. All right, we're coming into another little uphill stretch here. And after this, it's going to be mostly downhill from here. All right, I'm going to back off on the throttle a little bit. We're going to take our time here, because as I mentioned before, that last battery bar is blinking. Okay, here we go. Now we're coming into our downhill stretch, thank goodness. This side of the road is definitely feeling a little more bumpy than the other side. Heading back into the shadow of the mountain. That's that grueling hill climb that was responsible for eating up all of our battery. But this is where we take full advantage of gravity, conserve as much battery as possible. I definitely want to make sure we have enough juice to get through some of the slight uphill sections that we have up ahead. All right, taking a slight break. Fantastic view out there. And we'll take a look at how much battery we got remaining. All right, well, the news isn't great. We've got 10% battery remaining right now, so we're gonna go up this little incline here nice and slow. And then we'll work our way back down the mountain. So right now, gravity is doing all the work. I got my hands off the throttle. We're working our way down. I think we'll have a little bit of incline here, and then it's gonna be straight back down. Now I am gonna take another little pit stop here, because as you can see between the mountains there, you got a beautiful view of the Phoenix Metro. I'll take a picture of this and then I will throw it up on the screen for you. That is beautiful. All right, enough sightseeing. We're gonna head back down. For those of you keeping track, we officially crossed the 13-mile mark, and we've still got that last battery bar blinking at us, but we are on a pretty long downhill stretch right now, so scooter's doing very little work. In terms of the brakes, the electronic braking, when you pull on the brake lever, is very strong. With the brake setting, electronic brake setting set to something like 20% or 0%, you're basically relying on that disc brake, which when you're going down steep inclines is definitely not enough. So it's very good that this scooter has electronic braking in both the front and rear motors, because it gives you kind of that extra braking power you might need when going down very steep inclines. Got some potholes here, always hiding in the shadows. Beautiful views of the valley. Very clear day. And we are still freewheeling down the mountain at about 19, 20 miles an hour right now. And we've officially crossed the 14-mile mark. We've still got that last battery bar remaining. And of course, it is still blinking at us. I'm gonna take a little bit of a pit stop here. One more sightseeing session. So up there is South Mountain. Those are the antennas up there. That's where we were just at. We were less than a half mile from the top, which we were so close. Anyways, Out here we got open desert. Here we go. This is going to be the home stretch here. How far can we make it on the little bit of battery that we have remaining? You know, if we lost power now, it's only about a, I don't know, 1.5 mile walk, so not too shabby. You know, it's always a difficult call to make when you get so close to the top. You know, I think that if we had pushed through, we wouldn't have enough battery to make it back. Because although we do climb, you know, over 1,800 feet in elevation gain, it's not all downhill on the way back down. You know, some of it is uphill stretches, you know. And so I'm always concerned that we run out of battery on one of those long stretches. And anyways, so far the freewheeling has done very well on this scooter. Now, if you are interested in picking up an InMotion Climber, they do have really low prices at Voro Motors right now. I think this thing's priced at about $599, which in my opinion is a steal of a deal. It's definitely going to be probably the best hill climbing commuter scooter under $1,200. Anyways, if you use the link in the description, it absolutely helps support this channel, keeps the wheels moving on future reviews. We will be testing out another scooter from Voro Motors here in the very near future. It's going to be that eMove Cruiser V2, which is a super long range scooter, so we'll see how that thing does. And I'll be sure to take it up here as well. All right, so having gone up this mountain and coming back down, what do I think of ride comfort with this InMotion Climber? Well, I'll tell you what, it is a very comfortable ride. It's a very maneuverable scooter. Even though it doesn't have suspension, it does pretty well going over some of the lumps and bumps in the road. You know, so having air-filled tires is a huge advantage. I know there are some scooters out there that have solid tires, which are great for perfectly smooth ground, but definitely show their limitations when you go over bumpy stuff. So even though this scooter doesn't have a suspension, those tires do help absorb some of the impact. Now, obviously not going to be anywhere near as comfortable as a full suspension or even partial suspension scooter. But anyways, impressive nonetheless. All right, folks, so there you have it. That was our ride up South Mountain on the InMotion Climber. On this particular ride, we went up 16.61 miles. We had an average moving speed of 16 miles an hour, a maximum speed of 22.2 miles an hour, and we had an elevation gain of 1,804 feet over the course of about 1 hour and 21 minutes of riding. So overall, I'm very impressed with the InMotion Climber. We almost made it to that third lookout point. We were literally less than half a mile, 0.4 miles away from the top. Unfortunately, we did not have enough battery remaining in the tank to make it to the top. Had I pushed it, we'd probably be walking right now. But overall, very impressed in terms of the handling of this scooter coming down the mountain. There were a lot of lumps and bumps in the road and cracks, and it did reasonably well, especially considering it doesn't have a suspension. Now, let me know if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or concerns about this scooter. Happy to address those in the comments section below. And like I mentioned before, if you want to pick one of these up, you can actually get one from Voro Motors. I'll include a link in the description below. But as always, thank you so much for tuning into Tom's Gadget Garage. We'll see you next time.